Let me get on my fucking PC too.
Okay.
No, we don't need the PC. Look, so send your tier list.
Mm-hmm. I sent it in DMs.
I'll get down to this. We can do Jogo versus Choso, or Jogo versus 120 Mahito.
I guess your choice, really.
Yeah, sure.
I'll
We can do
do.
Jogo versus 120 Mahito. Why is Mahito above? Why is Jogo above Mahito?
Actually, I think I would prefer the Choso topic, to be honest.
Okay, yeah. Why is Jogo above Choso?
Yeah, do you firstly agree with Jogo over Dagon?
Sure.
Okay. Do you agree Dagon over Naobito?
Which Naobito?
The one he fights.
One. Sure. I think they probably are relative, though. I don't know if he is like above him to a significant extent.
Yeah. Did you say one arm he's above, or just
Yeah, I can grant that he's like above or relative to one arm.
I think he's above two arm.
Why is he above two arm?
The way I see it, even if two arm beats him up, he can't kill him before Dagon just goes for domain expansion.
Yeah, that's cool if he like wins the fight. Do you think he's physically above one arm Naobito?
Not in speed, but I guess in other
Okay.
aspects, maybe.
Yeah, I don't care about any of the other aspects. So yeah, so he's above one arm Naobito in terms of like I think he might be relative to him too, but I'll just steal man that he's above for now. So he's above one arm Naobito. Alright. Where does
I'm
that get you?
arguing that he's above two arm overall.
Yeah, but
Like if they were
okay,
to
yeah,
fight, he'd win.
yeah, I don't care if he'd win a fight between the two of them. I'm asking you, why do you think he scales to him in speed? That's the only stat I care about.
In speed, I don't think he scales to him in speed, but I think
Yeah,
with like his
okay.
durability and stuff, and the fact that he can deploy a domain even if his fingers are destroyed, I think he'd still win overall. It's just a
Yeah, I
part of
don't.
this like overall chain scale.
Yeah, I don't care if he like wins overall. So like, sure, I guess he can be above him, like in that aspect. But in terms of stats, I don't know why he'd scale.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I do agree that Naobito is faster, but in other stats, overall he wins. So then, do you agree with Naobito over Naname?
Sure, in speed, yeah. Like I think he can be. Look, it's like I think he can be. Actually, no, it's fine. Look, you're just gonna say Nanami is relative to Yuji, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Naname is above Yuji, and then I'm just gonna say Naobito is above Naname
Yeah,
in
but
probably an overarching sense.
you understand that you can't prove any sort of connection between fucking. You understand you can't prove any sort of connection between Dalgon and Naobito in terms of speed, right? So just be like, even though he can beat him in like a fucking fight, that's cool. But then he may also not be able to beat someone like Choso because maybe Choso has like higher AP to the extent where he can fucking one shot him. But look, um, the interesting thing to talk about is why do you think the fucking Naobito statement or the anonymous statement where they're like, oh yeah, they're relative in striking power applies to Yuji when he fights Choso?
Uh, I want to address something first before I get to that, but I'll address that in just a second. Do you agree if Jogo uses his domain expansion, he also just dies?
Um, I don't know if I'd grant that he like uses his short hit immediately. So like maybe fucking like Choso might just hit him with a piercing blood before he activates his short hair. I don't know how fast he'd activate his short hair.
Well, if he does activate his sure hit, you grant that he would win the fight.
Maybe, probably. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's like, because obviously all of your short hits have like a certain level of AP, so I don't know. But it's fine. I can grant like he can, if he had his short hair and he landed it, he might win, sure.
Yeah. So I have like two reasons for believing Nanami is stronger than Itadori. One, they sort of like put a lot of emphasis on how strong grade 1 sorcerers are in this arc, where they kind of just gap the other sorcerers. And secondly, I think that Nanami, since he
That
has higher
doesn't matter.
strike,
Wait, the first thing, that doesn't matter because Yuji is also nominated to be a grade one. So just because they're like, oh wow, grade ones are really strong. Obviously, we know that like there's
Mhm.
contextual reasons to say that they wouldn't want to let Yuji rise the ranks because he's Sukuna's vessels. And we also literally see that he's compared to a grade one like Kusakabe.
I'd like to see him being compared to Kusakabe, but I guess I
Because
can steel man. I guess I can steel man that for now. I think,
Meme
I
says
think I,
that, by the way.
yeah, I want to see that. I'll steel man that for now, though. I would just say for my second point, if Nanami has higher striking, like
Yo,
higher
why does
striking
he have
power than Itadori, I think striking power is part of reinforcement because
yeah,
it's where you're
where
circulating cursed energy throughout your
I don't
body to increase your speed and
look, it's like I don't care. So specifically, one, it's sort of like that Yuji, I don't know why he scales anywhere. Like I think sure Yuji's like hitting the thing as hard as he can and stuff, right? Maybe. But it's like obviously against Chosa, I don't know why those two Yujis are the same strength. Is there any argument for that?
there's literally like not even much time that passes between the two.
Yeah,
Do you have a basis
obviously, but
do you have a
obviously
basis
there's like not much.
to be hold on, do you have a basis to be skeptical of them being
Yeah,
comparable?
so like against Ilok, so again we know that like fighting generally should just give you more experience in using your cast energy, right? Because you're using it more constantly whenever you're fighting. We see there's like a sort of consistent trend of Yuji growing in the fights that he has with people. You can look like his fight with Sukuna, you can look at his fight with Mahito. We see like he's just constantly growing, right? So, and we
Yeah.
also have the fact that just like there are all of these other additional factors that he has against Chosa, right? He has like the negative emotions, right, from like killing Chosa's brother. We also know like what's it called? So he has like the negative emotions, like there are a whole bunch of stuff that you could just say. And also through fighting Choso, we see he improves mid fight with Choso. So it's sort of like, okay, well, if he's improving by fighting and over time through like combat with people like Awasaka, he's also constantly improving, then I don't know why I'd grant that there's like those two Yujis are the same strength.
Yeah, I think with the negative emotions thing, I don't think that matters too much because the issue is that the negative emotions don't immediately occur; they stem somewhat after. And
Prove that.
by improving, I don't know what you mean by improving. Yeah, yeah, you can literally observe in the fight. I'll like show you it. It doesn't
No,
happen
we see it.
immediately.
No, we literally see at the start, like Josus literally asks him, "Oh, well, what's it called?" Just asks him, "Oh yeah, what happened? What were the last expressions of my brothers?" And then Yuji was like, "They cried." And then Yuji's like, because obviously the whole point is Yuji's turned into a murderer by killing these two people, right? So obviously Yuji does have some negative emotions there. Later on in the fight, it's a different set of negative emotions. Those specific negative emotions are Yuji's like Yuji being afraid of dying, and he turns that negative emotion into cast energy as well. So it's sort of like, oh, well, if Yuji already knows how to turn negative emotions onto cast energy, then him having any sort of negative emotion would be a buff because he, unless you think he can control this cast energy, which isn't implied.
You said it isn't implied. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
he's
sure he
implied that he
literally.
can't. No, wait. To be clear, he isn't implied that he can control the new amount of cast energy he got.
You said can or can't, just to be clear.
Okay, it is not implied that he can't control like the new amount of cast energy that he got.
And then I'm looking for the scan where he says that he's using his negative emotions.
Are you talking about like where he says turn my fear into cast energy?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a different set of negative emotions.
Understand interference, cursed energy, and clear my mind of all distractions. Okay, so I guess I'll address this one by one. First, I'll address that Maito and Sukuna argument. I think with offers specifically, you can agree that when important details are, they're going to want to convey that to the audience. They're not going to want to hide details. Yes.
I mean, well, against Sukuna, we can kind of like see it visually that he goes from not really being too much of a threat to him to being a huge threat to him, right? So it's like if there's this sort of consistent pattern which is shown or depicted in at least a certain way within the series. And I'm also saying that it's portrayed here because we know contextually that he does get more cursed energy because he does have negative emotions. Then it would also fit in with the induction that whenever we see Yuji fights an opponent, right, and it's a big opponent, because obviously you'd agree that Choso isn't a fucking weakling bum, right? So if it's like a big opponent, you can look at Choso, Hanami, fucking Choso, Hanami, Osaka, Dalgon, not Dalgon, fucking Sukuna Mahito. In all of these fights, right? It's like all of these fights, especially the Sukuna Mahito and Hanami ones, we see he gets an amp, right? So then what's it called? We would also have like a strong inductive case to say that if like Choso's fight with Yuji also fits into the same category of fights that fucking category of fights that fucking these other fights fit into, then it's likely that he'd get an amp.
Interesting. Um, okay, I don't think this all matters. Do you just grind at the beginning before he even feels the negative emotions? He dodges piercing blood.
No, because he knows who Choso is. Like what?
How would he
He,
know
he,
that?
he sees. You agree? Like they're all fucking what's it called? Cursed wombs. He sensed the cursed energy of these two other cursed wombs, right? They all have similar cursed techniques, right? And then he sees this other guy who is also a cursed womb, so he's like half cursed, half human, right? And he also sees that he has blood manipulation. So I think he can probably make an inference off of that. Like,
With the whole blood manipulation thing though, even Combo has that, so I don't know if that matters too much.
yeah, but
However,
does
I don't think
wait,
this matters too much.
before you continue, does Karma have the cursed energy of a curse and a human?
He doesn't. He doesn't have
Hmm?
the brother's energy signature.
Okay, yeah, I was asking, does it have the cursed energy of a curse and a human?
No.
Okay, so then we'd be able to make the distinction because these guys all have a unique type of cursed energy, right? Where it's a mixture of a curse and a human, whereas Karma doesn't share that trait.
Also, can you show me that unique curse energy signature thing? I'm not sure I remember that. I understand that everyone
Yeah,
has distinct curse energy signatures, but I don't know if they specifically
yeah.
like a recognizable one, which is easy to differentiate.
Well, we know that you have a different cursed energy signature whenever you're a curse, right? Yes, no.
Um, I I
That's
don't.
that's
I'm
how
not
people are
sure.
able to distinguish. That's how people are able to distinguish Geto from being a Shikigami user from a curse spirit manipulator, right? Because they see his curses and they're like, yeah, no, these aren't Shikigami.
I'm not being dishonest. I just genuinely don't know if what you're saying is true.
Do you not remember in like whenever that old guy sees Getter, it's like, hey, these aren't Shikigami. Curse spirit manipulation, he's the same as me, right? So it's like obvious
Yeah.
you can tell, yeah. So you can tell that they're like different, or you can differentiate between Shikigami and curses based off of their cursed energy, right? So sort of like, well, if there's these three distinct types of cursed energy, like human cursed energy, right? Human cursed energy, fucking cursed energy, and Shikigami cursed energy. And he doesn't seem to fit in with cursed energy because he also has a mixture of humans as well. Then obviously it'd be something that is very easily distinguishable. Like it,
I'm
it
I'm
shouldn't be
skeptical of
really that hard to understand.
I'm skeptical of that. I think the best way you could prove this would be by showing him sensing like the half curse, half human like brothers, and
Right?
then saying like he can sense a different type of cursed energy. Because we
Well, do
don't
you not
know, we
think?
don't. I don't think we know if like half human, half curses have a curse energy signature, which is
They are a
detectable, which
mixture of the
feels
two. Wait,
different.
to be clear, they are a mixture of the two, and we know that he takes on traits like curses. So, for example, we know that like Choso won't die of blood loss unless he like runs out of cursed energy. So it seems as if not only does he get physiological changes, right, but also his cursed energy, like his usage of it, also seems to be a huge bit different than regular people. So to suddenly say that with all of these different factors that we know Choso has, that it would be improbable for him to not also have this other like different factor just seems to be absurd, and it seems to be just be special pleading. But it's like, look, he senses Choso's brothers, right? So if he senses Choso's brothers and he notes that, oh yeah, these guys like, oh, like he senses Choso's brothers and then he senses Choso, do you not think that he would also be able to like tell that these people have similar types of cursed energy to Choso's brother?
Only if their cursed energy types for like the brothers themselves actually are different, and if they're like
What do
similar
you
to one
mean?
another for the brothers. Now you said that because
Wait,
they
what
have
do you
physio
mean?
you oh sorry, what do I mean? Like
Yeah,
if the brothers have like the same type of cursed energy signature, then if
the,
Choso also has that, then he could notice that. But also what I mean by different, I said earlier, if they have a different type of curse energy signature, I mean different from like a normal human or like a cursed spirit, like half human, half curse, like it's
yeah, well,
differentiable.
obviously, we know that they have different cursed energy because we see that the way their cursed energy applies to them is completely different. So, for
No
example,
signature, sorry.
yeah, I
Not
know. I'm saying like Kosikov. So, for example, we know in regular humans, no matter how much cursed energy you have, you're still susceptible to die by blood loss. However, we know that, like specifically for Choso, it's stated that his cursed energy has a different trait due to being a fucking cursed womb, right? Death paint, a cursed womb, death painting, right? That is the reason why. And we also know, I'm pretty sure we know, like someone like Gojo can identify like someone like Choso, but you can say there's an exception due to him having the six sides. But it's like, look, obviously, if we know that like his cursed energy applies to him differently and it has different effects on his body, then to suddenly say that like with all of these other distinctions, right, this one also wouldn't be distinct or to be the same as the other ones, even
That's a
though we can
compositional fallacy.
hmm?
That's a fallacy of composition.
Isn't a
And
fallacy of
you said
composition.
you called a special pleading fallacy. I'll address that later.
Wait, so to be clear, it isn't a fallacy of composition because I'm not saying that, oh well, there's these specific other like parts, right? I'm not saying that there's this trait which is similar to the part, so the whole which is completely like unrelated to the part must also have these certain properties. That isn't the sort of claim I'm making. The sort of claim I'm making is specifically just that one, we know that there are these other like traits that we would know that we would observe if his cursed energy type was different. So for example, in curses and shikigami, we know that there are these specific physiological traits that we know are also part of the way we that you can distinguish them, such as like curses can't use reverse curse technique, yeah, shikigami can, right? So we know that there are these certain sorts of physiological differences, right? And because of these physiological differences, we also observe, right, that they have like different cursed energy types. So in the same way, we know that Choso has these other physiological differences, like compared to like regular sorcerers, right? And he also has these physiological differences compared to like curses, right? So obviously we could make an inference and say that yeah, he also probably like has a different cursed energy signature. I don't know how hard
Yeah,
that is to understand.
yeah, I see the argument. I believe you may be hedging because I believe you said originally he has a different physiology and he has a different type of curse energy application for how his
Yeah,
curse energy is applied to his body. So you said off of that, via that, don't you think it would also make sense that his curse energy would also be different when it's sensed? Now, all this, I mean, all this
wait,
is
but
that
where's the hedge?
I think you hedged. I think you changed it initially from that to um people. I believe this was your argument. People who have different fit, not people, sorry, beings that have different physiology have different curse energy. I just get kicked. Not in a
both
way.
of those two claims aren't like
Yeah.
both of those two claims isn't like I'm changing one claim to the other. The second thing I said is evidence to support the first one. So whenever I see people with different phase like cursed energy types, we also know that they have different like cursed energy. We also know that they have different like sort of cursed energy traits, right? Or we know it applies to their body differently, right? That is the proof. The proof is like the Choso instance. The proof is like the Shikigami instance, right? Like all of those are the proof for the claim, right? I'm not making a completely different claim, right? Because you are even because I want to dodge a counter response, right? Like quite literally, it's just the same claim. I'm just giving like it's the same claim. I'm just giving additional evidence for additional rationale. I don't know how else you want me to simplify for you. It's like I guess I'll explain it like, well, if this thing has this trait, we would expect to see these other traits, right? We see these other traits, therefore it's likely that we'll see this thing that's causing them as well. Like
Right. I mean, I see the thing. I've already called that out. Um, for the special pleading thing, you think I'm making an exception without providing justification. My justification is simply that there's this unknown factor here, that unknown factor being, right? Because you call that a special pleading fallacy. I want to explain why my earlier thought wasn't a special pleading fallacy. It's because this type of being is something to which we are not shown if you could sense the differentiating cursed energy type, right? If it's like sensible, because we don't really know the composition of Choso to the exact
wait,
extent, and
sorry,
we also
my
don't know how we also don't know how that thing pertains in
bad.
relation
Can you
to
repeat what you said?
Yuji. Okay, so you said earlier I was making a special pleading fallacy, but I was going to justify that I wasn't making a special pleading fallacy. My justification for it is Choso is half curse, half human, right? So he's a different composition. And via that, it's going to be an unknown factor on how it pertains in relation to Yuji sensing his curse energy and what
Yeah,
it's going to feel like. Because I'm sure you would agree, curse energy is like a sense, like a sixth sense, right?
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
is that I don't think we can say too much. But even beyond that, I sent you an anime clip. I think what happened here is even if you want to say he would know after a minute, right? Um, when he jumps down from the stairs at the train station, he's looking up and he's just thinking about Gojo, right? And then he randomly sees Choso, and then Choso immediately attacks him. So via this, I'm very skeptical on Yuji's mind being in place of him just thinking of who this person is, right? So via that, and also like he immediately goes for a block. So I don't think you can say that he automatically would automatically just start thinking about the brothers that he killed instead of defending himself and rescuing his sensei.
Yeah, so look, there's a whole bunch of things there. So one, um, UG dodging or UG blocking piercing blood is like completely fine. I think that's just also further proof that he just probably beat the shit out of Jogo as well. But the second thing is like, yes, I can grant that UG fucking his cursed energy, right? Or UG's fucking or like Choso's cursed energy can be a bit different than everyone else's. I that's obvious. The thing is, I'm trying to explain to you that if you have this specific trait, which is being a curse, we know you have different, distinct cursed energy. We know that if you have this other trait, such as being a Shikigami, you have distinct cursed energy. We also know that, like, if you're a human, you have distinct cursed energy to your curses as well, right? So to suddenly say that, well, like to suddenly say that regardless of this or regardless of this consistency, right, that a fusion of the two would suddenly not have this trait that we consistently observe would just be special pleading. Because yes, I know that there's a distinction, right, between the two. One of them's obviously a mixture. However, I don't know why it's a relevant distinction in the sense that I don't know why specifically that fucking specifically that just because it's a mixture that would remove this or that would suddenly make it non-applicable, right? But the second thing is like, look, I can grant that the main thought in Yuji's head right now is saving Gojo. That's the whole point he's there, right? Or that's the whole reason he's there, right? That he's trying to save Gojo. That's cool. However, the point is, right, that even if he is trying to save Gojo, he can still sense cursed energy, and the way he's able to actually block Choso in the first place is because he's still on guard even while thinking of like fucking Gojo. We know that when Yuji is off guard, we see him get severely hurt by attacks and like almost killed by attacks that regular wouldn't even injure him, right? So to suddenly say that like, oh well, in this other instance he's just like off guard just because he's thinking of Gojo, is just completely absurd, and there's no good reason for you to claim that. Like in a
No,
place
I'm
where
not
all
saying
of
he's
his
off guard.
enemies are, or like you're saying that he wouldn't be focused on sensing his cursed energy, and I'm saying like, oh well, he's clearly combat ready because he's able to block Choso, and he's able to block Choso and also deflect piercing blood, right? So to suddenly say that like, oh well, he isn't combat ready, right? Because he's thinking of Gojo, just seems to be completely absurd and not aligned with anything or what we've seen in the series.
That's a straw man.
Mm,
I wasn't
mm.
saying that he wasn't combat ready or that he was off guard, even though he very well may be, right? I think you can be off guard or ill prepared or surprised at something and still end up defending yourself, right? Because you can be off guard in the sense where you didn't expect something to happen, but you still had enough time to react. But even then, that wasn't even my claim. What I'm
Wait,
more so saying is his attention is towards two other things right now. His vision is somewhere else, and he's thinking about someone else, right? The only reason why he went for a block is because he just got out of a fight. So because he just saw
huh?
someone who doesn't look like a sorcerer,
Wait. To be clear,
he's obviously automatically
wait,
gonna go
wait,
for
before
defense.
you wait, okay, no, why one I don't know why he'd suddenly go for defense just because he's seen someone new, because then every single strange looking thing he saw on the street, like Mekamaru, right? When he saw Mekamaru's little tiny robot little bitch, right? He would immediately go for defense against that, but we see he doesn't. But the second thing is like, look,
I think he's already seen
before we
Mekamaru.
you're trying to claim something like, oh well, Yuji's fucking he can be combat ready, right? But that doesn't mean he's like sensing his cursed energy. But the issue is like, we know when Yuji is all off guard, right? We know that if like he gets damaged severely by attacks that regularly wouldn't injure him, right? So if he's in combat ready, and being combat ready would also include sensing somebody's cursed energy, because that's like a trait that is most vital whenever you're trying to fucking fight people. Sensing people's cursed energy allows you to determine when they're building up their techniques, right? It allows you to do a whole bunch of stuff, right? So if he is combat ready, then he also has to also be sensing his cursed energy as well, right? And if he's sensing his cursed energy as well, then you'd also have to grant that he would also know that he like this guy is one of his fucking custom death paintings. That's why immediately when Choso says, "Oh well, what's it called? Did my brothers cry?" He's odd. What's it called? What expressions did my brothers make? He immediately knows who he's talking about and says, "Oh yes, they cried." If he didn't know who Choso was or didn't know who he was related to, how would he know that his brothers cried in the first place? Right? Choso could be referring to literally fucking anyone. Right? But again, it doesn't seem as if he is. So I think my claim is just way more likely. And we're probably getting to the time limit of the debate anyway.
Okay.
But
Hmm. Well, I understand that negative emotions can buff you in JJK. However, I'm a little bit against the idea that Yuji's feeling negative emotions there because I think authors are going to show relevant details to the people reading the
he
stories.
calls himself a murderer. He
He
literally
calls
see.
himself a murderer, but in that specific moment, I don't think he's feeling the sadness quite yet, and I
Wait,
think
so
he isn't
do,
thinking about those brothers just yet. Maybe he
wait. So
didn't, or
to
maybe
be
he
clear,
realized that they have a similar curse energy signature, but he isn't thinking about them just yet
wait,
because I don't see any emotions of sadness whatsoever
wait.
coming
So
from Yuji.
wait. Okay, do you want me to show you? All right. He's like, oh yeah, he did cry. We see him looking down. All right. And literally, we just see it. All right.
At the start of the
That's
fight,
one. Yes.
let's see.
Sure, General.
This is after. I'm talking about the initial piercing blood.
Where younger brothers, the two you see also literally see like whenever he talks about younger brothers, he say yes, the two you killed. Right? He could literally be talking about fucking anyone. Right? And fucking he immediately recognizes that these two guys. That's one. And then two.
What the fuck?
Wait, and then two. We literally see like also you said a whole bunch of like stuff that you said we literally see Yuji reacts to, so you were trying to make it seem as if Yuji was off guard, right? You literally see Yuji looks at him, he reacts to him, he has the whole reaction mark and everything, right? So and
No,
he,
that's not
he
what I was
isn't
saying. It's not
okay.
off guard.
Then wait, to be clear, what claim are you making right now?
Yeah. I don't think his attention is specifically on the fact that Choso is like similar to those brothers, and I think the scan you actually sent supports my claim because we see an intro bang after younger brothers. That is a question mark, right? He's surprised at him saying, "What did my two little brothers say to you?" Right? Because he's confused. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He knows that he killed two cursed spirits, but he can't tell, even though he's looking at Choso and, like you said, the cursed energy signature thing, that those guys had a similar cursed energy signature to him,
No, no.
and
To be
he
clear,
can't infer that those guys are his brothers. So I think off of
okay. So
this is
to be
that he
clear, I think
supports
that if
that
he isn't
he
in
can't
active
actually
look,
sense or recognize. He can't actually sense a similarity between them.
yeah. So to be clear, I think that if he isn't in active combat, right, I doubt that he'd still be focusing on trying to sense his cursed energy, right? But immediately, like like he looks at Choso and he's like, "Oh yeah, younger brothers," and
Didn't
Choso
you say at the start
specified.
he was in active combat?
No, no. At the start, when he blocks the piercing blood, he was right. But I'm saying like after that, he wasn't
And you
in
said he
active combat.
senses cursed energy.
Hmm.
Yeah, so if he senses cursed energy there, wouldn't he be able to recognize it? And if he doesn't
If
recognize it
he's
there, then I think you won't have a point, and piercing blood just won't be. If piercing
do
blood
you
will just have that feat there, right?
okay,
Then it won't be
To
an
be clear,
empty.
do you not think that he can recognize that these two guys probably have similar cursed energy, right? However, not recognize that these two guys also are personally related? So if
If
he
he,
wait, so if he just recognizes that, oh yeah, this like, oh yeah, I killed two people. This guy's another one of those people, right? And if I fight him, I'll probably also have to like kill him as well, right? Then don't you think that would also mean that Yuji is also burdening himself with killing another person?
so I do agree that you can sense someone's cursed energy without also noticing that they're younger brothers. However, earlier you were saying in this conversation that because he's sensing this cursed energy, this similar cursed energy, that he can recognize and likely infer that these
Yeah.
guys are related to him, right?
Well, look, it's
However,
like okay,
however, if he can't sense that those guys are his brothers,
wait,
right?
but do you not think he can also recognize that he's a person because he's like, oh well, these are the two people who I killed. They have this similar cast, and they were people, and they share this similar sort of cast energy type as this other guy. So this other guy's probably a person. So then, do you not recognize that if he's like what's it called? Even if I grant that he isn't feeling sad because they're related, instead he'd be feeling sad because he knows he has to fight another person, right? And then after fighting another person, he realizes those two are related, which gives him another amp on top of that. Because he feels bad that he's about to fight a person. And he also feels bad that that person he's fighting, he killed the guy's brothers.
Yeah, I think if he was sad, then that would be true. However, the reason why I don't think he's sad is because authors are going to show relevant information to the reader. The fact that he isn't illustrating, the author isn't illustrating to us in any shape or form
Wait,
at the
why does he
beginning
need to
that
wait?
he is sad in that particular moment. I
Wait,
think that because of that, he isn't intending to show those details because those
wait,
were never
why does he
details
need
that
to
wrote
show
into
every
the
single
stories.
time? Wait, can you even prove that there's a consistency of whenever Yuji is sad, that the author shows him being sad?
I mean, I could send you a bunch of instances where we can see on his on his face, he has the
Okay, wait,
facial expression of sadness.
I'm going to give you.
However, if I
Wait,
send that, you could just skepticize if
no,
when
no,
he isn't showing
no.
those facial expressions, if
To
he's
be
still
clear, no,
sad
no.
or
So to be
not.
clear, look, I'm just going to explain it to you like this. You know, against Utah, his resolve is wavering, right? He isn't in the right mental state.
Against Utah, I don't.
Yeah, they
You
said
might be right,
he's.
but let me see.
Yeah, they said he's like holding back because he's unsure if he deserves to live or not.
Let's see.
So,
Let's see.
granting that's true, if against Utah he doesn't show any sort of facial expressions displaying sadness, then he can still be sad without displaying the fact that he's sad. And we also have the instances of like Mahito
I want to
literally
see that
says,
instance.
Okay, sure, I'll show you in a second. But Mahito also literally says that fighting people is a good way at breaking Yuji's resolve. And Yuji, after killing those people, doesn't change his facial expression. But I'll find you the Yuta instance
Wait,
first.
that's different because firstly, I literally already made the point of relevant plot details for like the story. If Maito
Hmm?
literally knows that like killing humans in front of Yuji will cause him pain, we don't
Wait,
need to then see that there's a facial
wait, but
expression.
okay, wait, wait.
I'm
You
saying
just conceded
I'm
then.
saying that's not a
You just
concession.
conceded.
No,
Oh,
no,
do you
that's
want
not
me
a
to explain how
concession.
you
My
conceded?
no, hold
Wait,
on. You can
okay,
explain, but
go ahead.
let me explain why I'm not conceding. Initially, I made the claim that if you're going to show off relevant plot details, um you want to convey a certain thing, right? He isn't showing any plot details for Yuji feeling sad or Yuji getting an amp from negative emotions in that particular moment. So I think via that, Gege doesn't actually intend to make Yuji feel sad then and there, right? Yuji can maybe sense someone's cursed energy, but immediately think of defense because, he has divided attention in that very moment. Under your point of view, he has to think about defending himself, saving his life, and
Okay.
actually sensing that there's someone's cursed energy, and he would also have to think of the fact that this guy is similar cursed energy to people I just killed. Now, another thing, I think you can sense
Wait, no, no, no,
similar
no, no,
cursed
wait, wait,
energy
wait, wait,
to
wait. Don't
someone
move
that you
on.
killed
Don't move
without
on to.
automatically associating that person with
Wait,
this person, right?
wait.
I don't
Okay,
think Yuji's gonna feel
one.
sad every time he kills
Wait.
um like a cursed spirit because they remind him of
Okay,
Mahito.
don't, don't wait. One, what? He wouldn't feel bad about killing a cursed spirit because even though he doesn't particularly enjoy killing cursed spirits, that's sort of like his thing. He's supposed to kill them, right? That's his job. He's killing them to stop them from killing other people. He also
He has
doesn't
to kill
consider them
Choso.
people. Wait. To be clear, you agree? He thinks he has to kill Choso.
Yeah, he has to kill Choso because
Okay,
Choso's
thank you.
attacking.
So wait. So for the point that I was about to make, I was about to explain why you conceded. So look, if you agree that it's already been established to us, whenever Yuji feels as if he has to kill a person, his resolve is weakened, as Mahito states it. Then you'd also have to agree that if he thinks he has to kill Choso, right, and he recognizes that Choso is a person, right, then his resolve would also be, or like his mental state would also be worsening because he knows he has to kill a person.
One, I've already said that Mahito. Okay, so one I've already said with the Mahito thing. Mahito specifically killing people in front of him. Actually, not. No. Sorry, I was making a mistake there. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna drop what I just said. Okay. So yeah. I think Yuji doesn't necessarily have to feel bad when he's killing half people, half curses because those
He
people aren't
says he's a
human beings.
murderer. No, no, no. He says he's a murderer, right? Do you know murder is just the wrongful killing of another person?
Yes. But
Okay, so he
yes. But when
considers.
does
So
he
he
when does
considered
he
them
say he's
people.
a murderer after
Sure,
killing the younger
sure.
brothers?
I'll find the statement. After this, do you want to just wrap up the debate?
I mean, we haven't skilled our characters like at all.
If I just break this, I break your scaling, right? Because then Yuji would have gone stronger from negative emotions.
Uh, I don't think so because even if you do all this, I would probably still find a way to like scale. To be honest,
Dude, I don't want to go on with you giving infinite amounts of scaling chains. That's why I set the time limit in the
no,
first
it's the
place.
same scaling chain. It's just I'll still be able to do it.
I know it's the same scaling chain. I'm saying obviously you can find infinite amount of scans to support your argument. That doesn't really matter to me. Right? I'm just saying like I don't want you to keep drawing out the day by sending more and more pieces of evidence. But look, I'll find you like especially after you're losing the point, but I'll find you the thingy. Mm, pieces, sorry. Damn that hurt. Mm, mm. Yeah, he immediately recognizes that he killed them, right? And then he says what's it called? He killed them. Then he reminisces that he killed three other people, and then what's it called? He was crying. And then he said, what's it called? Um, Unobara literally says that they're both accomplices. And I hope you realize that then you'd be accomplices to like murder, right? Like, I hope you can make that inference too. Like, Nobara's telling him that, oh yeah, don't worry, we're now accomplices to a murder because he feels as if he's killed them, right? And kill not the same as exercise, so he feels as if he's killing a person. That's also why he notes that their body doesn't disappear as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Let me see. I kind of disagree with this whole thing because these people are actively trying to kill Yuji and Nobara. So killing them
He
isn't
still,
wrong. Isn't wrong. They're defending
wait.
themselves. He
Okay,
feels
he
bad
also.
about it. I think Yuji isn't using the word accomplice correctly here. I think
Okay,
he's
well,
just.
it doesn't matter if you
I
think.
think what he just means to say is
Okay,
we're involved in this thing, right?
look.
And I
Oh
think
my God,
killing is different from murder because murder
look,
is like unjust. Killing is just like
haram,
causing the death of something,
haram,
right?
haram,
But
haram, haram.
I don't even, yeah.
Look, I don't look. You can argue over whether or not he meant something or not, right? Like I don't really care what you think he meant. No offense, right? It's cool. I'm just going off of what he says. So it's sort of like you can say, oh well, blah 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 blah. Your accomplices, killing is unjust. Da da da. It's like, look, obviously, right? There are like multiple ways Yuji could have like beaten them without having to kill them, right? And even if you say that his killing of them is just, right, is justified, right? The way Yuji uses murder is just taking the life of another person. So he still feels as if he's taking the life of another person, even regardless of the fact that it's justified or not, right? So that's
Can
one.
you support
Wait,
that
wait,
claim
true.
with evidence?
Wait,
But
to
continue,
be.
please.
Hmm?
Like how Yuji attributes murder, like what he believes murder
Oh
is to
well,
be.
killing also. It doesn't matter specifically. It's like he says, "Oh yeah, I killed this guy," and then two, Mahito you like contextualize Mahito's statement in a weird way that's supposed to support your argument. All Mahito says is making Yuji fight people, right? Weakens his resolve. Do you want me to find you the statement?
Is it the one from Shibuya?
Yes.
Yeah, that statement is different because it's literally just
Wait,
if I kill people in front of Yuji, that'll weaken
no,
his
no, no, no,
resolve.
no,
That's
no.
different from Yuji
He's talking about
actually killing
fighting
people.
people. No, he's talking about fighting people. I'll find you the statement, the instance.
And I'll just grant it. I'm not disingenuous. I know what that is.
Shinra,
I would
what is the
say
topic?
it's
It's
Jogo versus
Jogo
Choso.
versus Choso.
Oh,
I mean,
brother.
I'll say this.
Yeah, wait, so if using transfigured humans against Yuji is a good way, like he literally says, not fighting transfigured humans, he just says using them is effective for like breaking Yuji's resolve, right? All that like that just shows that literally Yuji, and it's also we know it's also effective against people like Nanami as well, right? So that just proves that Yuji as well, like his resolve will still be getting weaker, even regardless of the fact that he's like defending himself, right? His resolve would still be getting weaker. He'll still be feeling negative emotions, right? So, and these negative emotions would also increase his strength. But look, I think we've argued about this enough. Like, I probably need to go soon, so
Okay.
like you can just give your
I'll just
conclusion.
do you want to postpone? Because I'm not trying to like.
I,
Because I'm
I'd
not
rather
done.
I'd rather not debate fiction more than I have to.
Okay. I mean, I'll say this.
What
I
is the one
mean,
debate,
with
Pete?
the transfigured, I think with Maito, using transfigured humans is like torturing them, and they're gonna die no matter what, which will cause Yuji pain because he couldn't stop Maito from doing that. So he'll blame himself for that. He does the same thing in Shibuya when Sukuna kills people. He thinks like all these deaths are the result of his own like weakness, so he blames himself for it, which is a reasonable thing to do, even though it's not actually his fault. But I think Yuji doesn't actually care that much about hurting human beings because he was known at high school for being like the tiger or something. I believe that was his nickname.
The
He
tiger?
would literally,
What?
he would literally just beat the shit out of people who would like
Yeah,
bully people.
hurting. No, no, no.
He's fine with hurting people if people are doing bad actions. He's not fine if the transfigured humans sing because those are innocent people which are dying as a result of his own action.
What in
Right
the world?
now,
Okay,
those people who are doing bad things actually trying to kill him, he shouldn't have an issue with killing those people, right? Or
okay.
hurting
Look,
those people.
okay. One, Yuji is fine with beating up bad people. He's not fine with killing a brother, right? While that brother is trying to run away, while that brother is actively crying over the death of his other brother. So like, he's not fine with that. Just to be
You already
clear,
said
right?
earlier. You already said earlier that we know he doesn't know that they're related.
No, 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 no. He doesn't know Choso and them are related, but he knows Eso and Ketchis are related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
So wait, chill. So he's not fine with that, right? And then the second thing is
Wait.
simply just be.
Hold on. Sorry, I wasn't listening. Did you just say he just knows that Choso? He doesn't know that Choso is related to Keikuju and Eso.
Yeah, but he knows Eso and Ketchis are related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's not fine with killing a brother while that brother is mourning the death of his other brother, right? And while that brother is actively trying to run away from him. So he's not fine with that, right? And we know that he's not fine with that because we see that he starts acting weird after it. So clearly, if this thing isn't playing any sort of mental toll on him or if it isn't affecting him mentally, right, then he wouldn't be acting weird after it. He'd just be as fine as he is after killing regular curses, right? However, like against regular curses, we see he literally doesn't even care, right? He doesn't even respond emotionally, right? He doesn't even quote unquote act weird or anything like that, right? However, against Ezra and Kechizu, we see he acts weird. So clearly, the sort of distinction you're trying to make, where you're like, oh well, what's it called? He wouldn't act weird because these guys are trying to kill him. It's just false because we see that he acts differently. But that's even like that's just gonna be my closing statement for the debate. I'm not even gonna lie.
Can I? I'll make my closing statement. And I know you don't really want to do fiction, but if you'd like, I'd prefer if we postpone because I actually do want to get my skilling chain off. But that's just up
Um,
to you if you want to do that.
I'd
So
rather not do this again.
my closing statement is I'll just get my position on that. I think with the Keichizu and the Esso thing, from my recollection, what happened was these guys are crying and they're experiencing pain and they love each other, right? These so because of that, it's tugging at Yuji's heartstrings. So
Wow.
he feels empathy, right? He
Wait.
feels
Okay. Wait. So do you also agree? Wait. Wait.
he feels
I
empathy
just
and sympathy for them.
wait. I just want to say
Hold
this
on. Let
first.
me
Wait.
just.
Chill, chill, chill.
What do you
You
want to
can
say?
continue right after. I just want to say this first. Like, okay, if you say that the reason why he like feels this way is because of empathy, you'd also have to agree that when Choso points out that he's the brother of these two guys that he just killed, he would also be feeling empathy or be feelings like bad for Choso as well, right?
Yep, I do agree.
Okay, so he does have negative emotions against Choso. Thank you. That's all I need.
In that instance, yes, but I don't think he
Mm.
has negative emotions at the start, right? So I would say at the start, like I said earlier, I think if the author is going to portray a certain thing within his story, right, he wants the reader
No,
to know that he's
you
trying
can
to
go on with
portray
your
this thing.
conclusion.
So because of that, no, I'm just restating my earlier point. So when I made that proposition earlier, right, if the transfigured humans thing doesn't go through and Yuji doesn't actually feel bad about killing humans, that then there's no other evidence which is shown within the story which would support that belief. So because of that, he wouldn't be experiencing negative emotions there, and well, there wouldn't be a reason to say that he's feeling negative emotions there. And because of that, right, he would just have done that feat normally without the curse energy buff from negative emotions. So that feat still stands. If that feat still stands, I think the chain link scheme goes through and I'd probably win. But I'd have to talk about the Nanami and other stuff first. Okay. That's my take.
Yeah.